This is Autoline Daily, the show dedicated to enthusiasts of the global automotive industry. You've heard of the Magnificent Seven, right? Not the movie. I'm talking about the top tech stocks that are powering the stock markets to all-time records, including Nvidia, Apple, Alphabet, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, and Tesla. Except that Tesla is in danger of getting dropped from the Magnificent Seven list. Bloomberg reports that Tesla is the worst performing stock this year on the S&P 500, down 32%. And that's even worse than Boeing, which is going through a tailspin right now due to critical quality problems on its planes. Tesla's market cap is still bigger than Toyota, Mercedes, and BMW put together, but its stock trades at nearly 60 times earnings. Meanwhile, Nvidia, the current market darling, only trades around 40 times earnings, which suggests that Tesla's stock is still overpriced. Bloomberg says that Tesla's problem is slashing prices, stiffer competition, and Elon Musk's, quote, outrageous posts on X. That's Bloomberg's description, not ours. Tesla bulls say, don't worry, this is just a temporary setback and the company will resume its strong growth rate. But it sure looks like the days of 50% growth a year could be over. But one thing that could re-energize Tesla's growth is that $25,000 car that some call the Model 2. And we're surprised to hear that Tesla will build it at its plant in Berlin. According to the German newspaper Handelsblatt, during his visit to the plant yesterday, Elon Musk told employees that the cheap EV will, quote, definitely come to Berlin in the long term. He also said the plant could build the semi-truck too. But back in January, Musk said the $25,000 car would be built at Tesla's plant in Texas. Could it be built at both? And that makes us wonder, what's going on with the plant in Mexico? We thought that plant would pioneer the new unboxed assembly process to slash costs. And it still could, but right now, Tesla seems to be dragging its feet on building the plant because Elon is worried about high interest rates and their impact on car sales. And while Tesla may have some problems to deal with, they pale in comparison to what's happening at Fisker. Henrik already warned investors that the company could run out of cash this year, and now the Wall Street Journal reports that he's hired a team of bankruptcy experts, FTI Consulting, which is a financial advisor, and Davis Polk, which is a law firm. That generally means two things: a slash and burn approach to everyone's budgets and a desperate search for someone to buy the company. Even though Henrik says he's in talks with a major manufacturer in North America, and other media reports say that it's Nissan, we think it's highly unlikely to happen. Fisker really doesn't have any assets to sell except for the design of its cars. And most car companies are typically too proud to buy a design from one of their competitors. Even though the bloom is off the rose for some EV startups, there are plenty more willing to jump into the market. And we really like the look of this compact pickup truck from a startup company called Telo. It's a 4-door, 5-passenger truck with the same footprint as a Mini Cooper that can still fit a 4x8 sheet of plywood flat in the bed. The company is claiming 500 horsepower, a 350-mile range, and a $50,000 price tag, not including any incentives. Telo actually has a running chassis, but it clearly has a long way to go. So far, it's raised a bit over $7 million, which is a good start. But as you all know, in the automotive industry, EV startups with over $1 billion in cash are running out of money. Even so, it would be pretty cool to see this truck actually out on the road.
Intrepid's NeoVi Pi, allowing automotive engineers to interface, capture, and monitor vehicle data using Raspberry Pi. As a matter of fact, it's the automotive industry's first robust platform for Raspberry Pi, featuring Intrepid CAN-FD technology and Raspberry Pi Compute Module. The NeoVi Pi is designed for automotive environments, allowing use with relative power ranges and applications. In addition, the NeoVi Pi enables you to use the Raspberry Pi for compute while avoiding additional development to adapt to network environments. That makes the NeoVi Pi powerful enough to solve your vehicle network problems, yet small enough to fit in your backpack. One of many intrepid tools used for developing zonal architecture and software-defined vehicles.
Mercedes is looking at crash tests in a whole new way, or should I say, a whole new X-ray. It says it was the first automaker to successfully X-ray a crash test while it was happening. A special X-ray device that can take up to 1,000 images a second, which is about 1,000 times faster than a conventional X-ray machine, is what made the test possible. Those images are then stitched together into a video, and in this short clip here, you get an overhead view of the crash test dummy during a side impact. It's a little hard to tell what you're looking at first, but you're looking down at the head, the rib cage, and the legs of a seated dummy before it's swept away. Mercedes says it's been developing the technology for the last several years with a technical institute because being able to see inside of components and how they deform in a crash could help it make safer cars. Volkswagen is expanding its lineup of sportier EVs, or what it calls its GTX trim line. The first GTX model came out in 2021, and now it's adding versions of the ID.3 and ID.7 station wagon. The ID.3 GTX only comes in rear-wheel drive, but it offers 2 power outputs for the motor. The base version has just over 280 horsepower, the same as the ID.4, while the performance version has 322 horsepower and will do 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 5.6 seconds. It also features a slightly larger 79 kilowatt-hour battery pack that provides up to 600 kilometers or 373 miles of range. The ID.7 GTX Tourer, on the other hand, is all-wheel drive with up to 335 horsepower, has an 88 kilowatt-hour battery pack, and up to 622 kilometers or 387 miles of range. And like all GTX models, both feature unique lighting and fascia treatments, as well as a few sporty touches to the interior. No word on official launch yet, but VW says it will be soon. And in other VW EV news, it's coming out with a new electric crossover for the Chinese market called the ID.UNYX, which we think is pronounced UNYX. Some of you may recognize the styling because this is just a rebadged version of the Curpa Tavascan, and both models will roll down the same assembly line in China, which it operates with its joint venture partner JAC. So, that report we had the other day of VW and JAC investing nearly $1 billion more into their JV, I think we now know where some of that money is going to. The ID.UNYX is based on the MEB platform and is offered as a 170 kilowatt or 227 horsepower rear drive model, or with all-wheel drive and a combined 250 kilowatts or 335 horsepower. It's scheduled to launch in China later this year. The auto industry is going through its biggest transition in history, and a lot of executives are afraid of losing their jobs. According to AlixPartners' 2024 Disruption Index, auto execs are more worried than those in other industries. 1 in 4 think they could lose their job. The survey included 300 CEOs and senior executives across the global industry, including automakers, suppliers, dealers, aftermarket, and mobility companies. A third of auto execs, 40% of suppliers, and half of dealers are predicting, quote, significant disruption this year. A majority also say it's becoming increasingly more difficult to know which disruptive forces need to be prioritized, and a third of them say they're concerned their company isn't adapting fast enough. While many execs see software-defined vehicles as an opportunity, a large number also see it as a threat, especially the cost of implementing them. Not long ago, some people were shouting that there wasn't enough capacity to recycle EV batteries. But ABI research says the problem is exactly the opposite. The U.S. alone will have the capacity to recycle the equivalent of 1.3 million EVs a year by 2030. But the problem is that only 341,000 EVs will be ready for recycling by then. ABI believes recycling projects will be delayed or scaled back until there's enough batteries to make the recycling business profitable. And before we sign off today, there's a couple of vehicle teasers we'll quickly go over. Cadillac says it's going to unveil its first B-Series electric car later this year, a concept it's calling Opulent Velocity. And Kia teased the replacement for its small cars, what it now calls the K4. Depending on the market you're in, the K4 will take over for the Forte, Ceed, or Cerato. Styling is more in line with its other new models, which is a little more aggressive than the current cars. The new K4 debuts at the New York Auto Show on the 27th of this month. And that brings us to the end of today's show. Thanks for tuning in.
Autoline Daily is brought to you by Bridgestone, solutions for your journey, and by Intrepid Control Systems, over-the-air engineering. Boost your game.
When the elements are working against you, being confident in your grip on the road is what really matters. Bridgestone Alenza tires, improved acceleration in wet conditions.